Luke's nativity section finishes with a verse that comes out as one of the longest in this section. It is another complete sentence. Kai hote eplesthesan hemerai octor tu peritimein auton, kai eclethe to onoma autu Jesus, to clethen hypotu angelu protu sum lempthenai auton enter coelia. Kai and. That's now your 11th sentence in this section starting with an and. Hote, when. Eplesthesan, that epsilon is your augment. So the verb is the root plere, pimplemi, fill. And you've got octor hemerai, when 8 days were filled. When the 8 days were filled, fulfilled. To peritimein, this is now a gerund in the genitive, and it gives you a purpose clause. To circumcise auton him. And, now this is breaking off a new clause, eklethe to onoma autu Jesus. To onoma, his name, autu. Eklethe, aorist passive of kaleo, was called Jesus. To clethen, and that's your clare root, just like you just had, but in the aorist passive participle. The thing called, what was called by the angel hypotu angelu. Pro, now this is before, plus a genitive gerund, tot sulempthenai. And lempthenai is a very unusual aorist passive of lambano. Before the gathering together, the conception, whose conception? Auton, him, before he was conceived. And then enter coelia, tells you where, in the, and coelia are hollow, but it's a way of saying stomach, womb, etc. That's a basic reading of this. It is also very Lucan again in several different ways. That kai hote is something that you see a lot in Luke. The verb pimplemi, an unusual me verb, which underlies eplesthesan, is also something which is particularly Lucan. 22 uses in Luke, but only 3 elsewhere. Luke Acts, but only 3 elsewhere. You then got 2 gerunds. You've got 2 peritimein and 2 sulempthenai. Clethen, this is a hapax in its form in the New Testament. And there's only one other use of that aorist passive participle anyway, and that's klethentos in Acts 24. So only Luke uses this form of kaleo. You've also got a kai there, which joins the 2 clauses. It adds in a subordination. When 8 days are fulfilled, bringing about the time to circumcise him, his name was made Jesus. So the naming is part of the ceremony. We're talking about naming ceremonies in the ancient world. So it's not a straightforward and conjoining things. There is a subordination that his naming Jesus is subordinated on his circumcision. You'll see this called an apodosis in some commentaries. Most classical books will only use that for a conditional clause. You won't find the term apodosis used for any other kind of subordinate clause, but you will find people call this eklethe to onoma autu Jesus an apodosis because it's subordinated to the main clause. The lack of article before hemerai also shows you that the 8-day period doesn't need a definite article to show what it is. It's known as the 8 days, a period of 8 days, and therefore has its own understanding as a period without needing the article to make it definite. So this final verse of the Nativity gathers references to chapter 1 that I haven't put in, but gives you the calling of his name. It brings in the angel and a number of very Luke standard features, whether it's unusual vocab like Sunempternai, which is only used 16 times in the New Testament, 11 out of which are Luke Acts, and it's a great example of compound verbs. You'll see a lot of the verbs used in this section of the Nativity are compounded, and it's a compound form of otherwise fairly well-known verbs that is particularly Lucan.